Okay, we're on the August 29th, 30th turn, which is the actual date the Battle of Manassas was fought, just to give you a scale of where we are in the game. Union will be getting 2 more corps from Alexandria, so this is certainly going to be a turning point turn. Now, I've looked at the Confederate situation, and it's pretty ugly. But Lee still has a chance to retrieve his fortunes if the reconnaissance is, if it works, we'll say. The Confederates have had some bad luck in reconnaissance die rolls. And the reason being that Lee suspects that these are dummy units, certainly he suspects that one is, and these are the very units that are interdicting his supply line to the south. So if Lee can possibly expose these units, he's got a chance of getting back and not being isolated. Because right now, Lee is isolated. Counting the hexes back, he'd go, what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, Lee is definitely isolated. So he's got to find out what these units are in order to clear his supply line. So the Confederates will begin with a reconnaissance of that square there. And they very much need to know what that square is. I'll have to add a dummy unit here. I'll put it there. Alright, so we're doing a reconnaissance or probe of that space. A die. Unbelievable. They got a 6, which means that probe fails. I think the fates are against the Confederates here. Okay, that brigade will reconnoiter that space, and it needs to be successful. It rolls a 4. Thank goodness it is. So that unit is exposed, and it is the dummy that we always suspected it was. Now, because it exposed a dummy, that unit can keep on moving. So the 3rd Brigade will move down and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And boy, the Confederates need to win this probe. They roll the die. They get a 2. Thank goodness. They expose that unit for the dummy that it is. And now the whole strategic picture has changed because the line from Manassas Junction to Gordonsville is no longer interdicted. Now, what's that distance? It's 1, 2, you can't go through zones of control. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and back. So Lee is totally in supply again. Again, this game emphasizing how important probes and reconnaissance is. So the whole picture has changed in a single, well, one die roll. Okay, Lee going from isolated to being in supply, and now very deadly. So Lee can now attack in supply, and now he can really maybe mess up Pope, because Pope took a chance by going through the gap, and now this gap could be his death knoll, who knows. Alright, so the Confederates still have 1 cavalry left, and they really need to clear the way here for Lee. So this cavalry will do a bold move and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oops, I'm accidentally carrying an infantry there. Alright. This is another critical reconnaissance. They roll, and they get a 3. Thank goodness. They flip, and that is a real unit. Remember the remnants of that corps that Lee beat up. So that's bad news for Lee, because that's his zone of control there, and he's not going to be able to pass through there as easily as he thought. Is it possible? Well, I suppose it is possible. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but he wouldn't be able to hit Pope. Lee could go this way and hit him, though, and maybe this is a chance to hit Pope while he's isolated, and I think Lee will take it. So we're going to work out a move here whereby the Confederates could be able to move down and hit Pope from the rear, isolating him and having him. This could be the decisive battle of the Manassas campaign. So it's funny how changing fortunes of war can go in this game. Let's study the situation and see what the Confederates do. Okay, checking the rules for combat, I had to check to see if streams make a difference, and they do if all attacking units attack across a stream. So Lee will want to make sure that he has at least 1 unit not on the stream, which he will do. But he'll concentrate the rest of the units in the one space. I think that's always better on this scale. And that division will attack from there. And we'll have Longstreet there and Lee and Jackson. So the entire Army of Northern Virginia is striking Pope. Now Pope, I think, is isolated. Yeah. Lee's put his zone of control there. There's a zone of control there. He's surrounded by zones of control. Well, actually not from here. Technically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wow, 6. Man, he's still in supply. So Lee will have to block that off. And he can do that by, there's still units that have not moved there. So this unit will go 1, 2 and stop. Rolls a 3, which he gets. So 1, 2. Oh, actually 1 doesn't stack. 1, 2, 3. Still makes it. Okay. Okay, now Pope is totally surrounded by zones of control and is isolated. So finally, Lee gets the jump on Pope. We'll see. We'll get to that combat in a moment. Now we've got another division coming up here. We know that's the real one. I think Lee will have him come up here to make sure that that's isolated. So go up there and north. Roll the die. Get a 5. So it's 1, 2, 3. Doesn't have enough movement points to cross. So there's the picture now. We've got a big battle near Thorofur Gap. And this time it looks to be for the Union. Let's work out the combat odds. Okay, after working out all the logistics there, it works out to a massive 2-to-1 battle with no additions or subtractions. Let's see what the Confederates get. 2-to-1. You roll a 2. I think that's a good roll. 2-to-1. Oh, wow. I told you this table was finicky. That's DE1 and AE1. So each side loses 1 measly step for a big battle like that. A little strange. Okay, I'll just work out the casualties there and put the replacement units on. Okay, the Confederates only got 3 points for that battle, and the Union only got 1. Which doesn't sound like much. But it's the Union turn now, and you can see that Pope is in one hell of a mess. He's isolated and in big trouble. He's going to have to get his line of communications open. And when you're isolated, you can't attack. You're halved in defense. So he's just going to have a hell of a time just even to get back in supply, let alone attack. So he's got to place his 2 dummies right now. And we'll reflip this core. And he just has to get his line of supply established again. So he's going to do that with dummies partially. Good way to do it. And we'll start with a dummy there and maybe another dummy under Pope. Alright. He's in a heck of a mess. Now he does get those 2 corps that come from Alexandria. That's under Sumner. So they'll be coming on the board here. That's relief very much in the rear. Right now he's stuck at Thorofur Gap with big problems on his hands. So let's see how he gets out of this scrape, as McClellan would put it. Alright, it doesn't matter if the Confederates know that that's a dummy or not. Again, dummies act like real units until they're exposed. Alright, so that dummy will move from there to there. And he is in command, so it's 1 to unstack, 1 to enter the square, 2, and 2 more for the zone of control, 4. So he's technically got 2 movement points left. 4. 1 to leave the zone of control, 5, and 1 to enter that one. There's no zone of control there. That's a Confederate cavalry brigade. So he's put a unit there, which is good. Now, we know that these are all real units, and so does Lee. But we'll put them upside down anyway. Add to the reconnaissance aspect of it. We all know that they can unstack and unstack and get there. So 1 to unstack, 1 to go there, 2 to the zone of control, 4. 1 to leave the zone of control, 5, 6 to 6. So they can't go to there. So the whole army can move effectively just the 1 space to here, which isn't far. But is that enough to put Pope back in supply? It is. See, supply line now goes through that square. Tenuous at best, I'll admit. but down through there and back up. So Pope is now fully in supply. This game is all about supply and isolation. Now, he's got cavalry too, which I think he's got to start using. Alright, he's got to find out whether that's a real unit or not. So he rolls the die and gets a 3. So for his side, thank goodness, that reveals a dummy. So now his supply line is certainly a lot clearer and open. Because that unit found a dummy, he can keep moving, remember. So, I think he'll just go 1 and stop there. And this unit will just go there and stop. We know that's a dummy. And now we have these 2 units that are out of command but can move to help the supply situation too. So, that's the dummy one. Let's mess up Lee by going 1, 2, 3 in there. Roll the die. To get a 1, this guy isn't moving anywhere. The Union have to subtract 1 from the dice when they move with no command. This guy will move... I think he'll go to Manassas Junction. He doesn't move. Okay, Sumner, who is in command of these 2 corps, can move them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And 1, 2, 3, 4. So Pope's back in supply. He's just got the 1 corps left to move. That's the 8th. Let's have the 8th move straight southeast. Gets a 4, read a 3, 1, 2, 3. And that's the end of the Union turn. It's not the best, but at least Pope is back in supply. Tenuous, but back in supply. Let's take a look at the Confederate options. You know, it's funny how you play a game for years, and I haven't played the game for a long time. Now I've come back to it. I'm seeing things I'm not sure if I remember I saw back in the 70s. But the Confederates have a hell of a time keeping their supply lines open and invading and attacking Pope at the same time. So I don't see an option whereby Lee can even consider crossing the Potomac now. It's almost impossible. He just can't stay in supply. That leaves only beating up Pope an option. And the way that combat results table is constructed, it's very hard to get decisive results. Not impossible, but very difficult. So, we'll have the Confederates begin by at least starting a reconnaissance. So they'll reconnoiter that unit there, see what it is. Roll a die, it's a 2, thank goodness. They expose it to be the dummy that it is. Oh, by the way, I have to place a new dummy here. I'll put it here. So that Confederate unit can keep on moving, but he'll roll the die to see what that unit is. The die gets a 1, that's successful, and that's the real unit that was dinged before. And so that cavalry brigade's unit is over. Now Lee could do another strike at Pope. It's going to take a bit of doing though. Let's have this cavalry unit go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and do a reconnoitering of that space. He has to add 1, by the way, in this reconnoitering situation because he's reconnoitering through a pass. There's a die, and that's a failure, so that cavalry brigade's move is over. Lee has not exposed that unit, but he has blocked Pope's supply line through the pass. So Pope, once again, is isolated. Zone of control, and nope, actually Pope isn't. That isn't the zone of control. Pope is still in supply. Son of a gun. Well, Lee will have to change that by moving some other units up. Let's take a chance with this one here. We'll try to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, we couldn't get there. Can only get there. Well, let's roll the die. That's a 3. It's irrelevant. Goes 3. Wow. How do we re-isolate Pope? Very difficult. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nope, can't do it. Well, it'll actually take a real division to do it. I think Lee has to do it. So we'll use Walker's division here. And it would cost 1, 2. No, you can't do it either. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wow, it'd be a forced march. Lee can't isolate Pope this turn. Let me reevaluate. Okay, since Lee can't isolate Pope, he could hope to strike one of Pope's isolated corps if he can find it. So we'll have the Confederates go there and reconnoiter this unit here. And it's successful. We know there's a cavalry division there and a dummy. Alright, that changes the complexion of things a bit. Well, not much, does it? Because in this game, if you attack cavalry, they can do a free retreat. Let me reevaluate again. Okay, I just had to check Lee's supply line again, and it's still very tenuous. He's not isolated, but he's actually unsupplied. His supply line now has to run here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 spots to the railroad back to Gordonsville, which means he's unsupplied. And unsupplied means attack halved. Lee can't really attack this turn. I think the Confederates are a bit stymied, and we might have reached the turning point of the campaign. Well, I'm not sure what the Confederates can do. Let me think this one over. Yeah, I think there's definitely a turning point. Lee doesn't have a lot of options. But Lee, by his nature, would not want to give up the campaign. I know that. So, what he's going to do is unstack his forces here, his army actually, and strike that corps and wipe it out. Even if it is halved, he should be able to take it out. So 1, 2, 3, yeah, they can all get there. Might as well face them up since we know we're going into combat anyway. And even though they're going to be halved, they should be able to win that battle. They are taking a chance still with Pope still very much active down there. But Lee doesn't want to be picked up here. Alright. And we'll move Longstreet in here in a blocking position. And let's try to get some of these dummies in there too to mess up Pope. This one will go to Longstreet. Gets it 3. I don't think he makes it. No, 1, 2, 3. Okay. That unit will do the same thing. 2. Doesn't get far. 1, 2. And this one will go... yeah, to there. Doesn't make it. Wait. Yes, he does. Doesn't have his own control. And this one, which we know is a dummy. I'll go to 1635. Yeah. Alright, so they've got a supply route of sorts. Now this battle will be halved for Lee, but he should be able to win that one. 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24, 28. Half 14. And Lee and Jackson can add another 14. So it's 28 to 2. It's obviously it's a huge attack. It's 6 to 1. Let's roll the dice, see what they get. 6 to 1 with a 5. Don't know that result. The 5. Holy cow, that's an exchange. Yo. Well, the Union unit is destroyed, and we'll take Walker's division and cut it in half. So that big battle, 6 to 1, garners more or less an exchange. Although the Union has lost a unit. Big deal, huh? Okay, it'll be the Union turn, and that's the September 1st turn. We're getting almost into the Antietam campaign time period now. And we replace Pope on the board immediately with McClellan, who's a better combat commander. So we'll go down here and replace Pope with McClellan. And I think the turning point certainly has been reached. We're approaching, I think, when we can probably end the video soon, because I'm just not sure that the Confederates can do anything now. But let's go another turn or so and see what happens. We'll get the Union to replace these dummy units here. They're going to be able to mess up Lee pretty good. And McClellan should be able to do some serious counterattacking too. So let me just look at the Union situation here for a moment. Okay, now Pope has left a real mess for McClellan to clean up. McClellan starts off in supply, but very tenuous through the gap here, through this clear terrain and back up to Manassas Junction. But it's the potential of being interdicted by Lee is quite great, very bad. So I think what he's going to have to do is secure the supply line. Certainly McClellan would, given the way the man acted in real life. So the Union might want to begin with some reconnaissance here to clear up these units. So we'll begin with that. He'll go 1, 2, 3 and start the reconnaissance process against this unit here. And he gets a 1, which exposes the real unit, that replacement division. So his turn is over. Now that's not good for McClellan, necessarily exposing a real unit. I think they would have liked to find out whether that's a dummy or not. But McClellan can move through the pass and be in a much better position. See, 1 done stack. He's got a bit of a traffic jam. That's one thing I like about the game again. Simple elegance. It's a simple system, but very realistic actually. Alright, so 1 done stack. Says 2, doesn't have zone control. 3, 4, 5. And we've got a real unit there. And this corps will go 1, 2, 3, 4. This corps will go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This corps will go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this last corps will just go 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. And Porter will join with McClellan there. Now, the Union still has a whole mess of units to move still. And they're both dummies. They can still cause a lot of grief to Lee. So that dummy will try to move there. Gets a 2, which isn't going to be enough because it's a 1 done stack. 1, anyway, can't do it. Let's try the other unit. He rolls a 1. Those dummies aren't going anywhere. But they are causing Lee some grief anyway. Now we have a new corps coming in here. And I know McClellan, he'd want to have that corps join him rather than risk going into Lee's rear. Oh, I gotta admit, going into Lee's rear at this point would be pretty ugly. I wonder if they should. Sure would mess Lee up. You know what? He'll try. He'll go to 1731 if he can make it. Gets a 2. He becomes a 1. So he goes to there. And that's it. But Lee's army is messed up, that's for sure. Sumner can move a corps. And he can go 1, 2, 3, 4. If he's not careful, he's going to get surrounded. And we've got, that's a dummy. But Lee doesn't know that. 1 done stack, 2, 3, 4. Now we've got a corps here that can move. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sumner will move there. Alright, that's the end of the Union turn. And they're certainly not in trouble now. McClellan's totally in supply. He's got units bothering Lee's rear. Lee is also in supply. Maybe just. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, just. But it's a very tenuous supply line back down to Gordonsville. For all intents and purposes, though, the Manassas campaign is over. But we'll go another turn or so to see what Lee can do. Can he get out of this thing? Let's take a look at his options. Okay, but the only thing I can see Lee doing now is getting out of this mess and maybe at the same time surrounding this cavalry and destroying it. It's the only cavalry that the Union have. It has certainly hurt their long-term prospects. Short-term, that's all that Lee can do. I can't see how the Confederates are going to pull a victory out of this scenario at this point. But let's move Lee back. I'll halt the video and pick up the action after Lee is moved. But I think they can easily destroy this cavalry unit there. Okay, that's after the Confederates have moved, and I'm pretty darn sure we're going to see some funny results. Like I said, not a real fan of that combat results table. Anyway, the Army of Northern Virginia fell back through the pass and concentrated here. The whole shebang is going to ding the Union cavalry. Now, in the rules, cavalry can always retreat before combat if they have a retreat route, but in this case, of course, Lee has completely isolated it. And odds greater than 6 to 1 are treated as 6 to 1. So we'll have the Confederates roll the die for that 6 to 1 attack. And this probably is not going to bode well the way the combat results works. Let's go. 6 to 1. 5. And that's our good old exchange again. So we kind of have this little ridiculous situation where an army has just attacked a Confederate or a Union division, surrounded it, and got an exchange. Well, that's the way the combat results go. So the Union cavalry is destroyed, and I think Lee's got a 2 division here, which will knock out Walker's, although I don't like knocking out divisions. No, I'd rather reduce another unit, so I'll take the casualties there and we'll look at the situation. Okay, so that in that little ridiculous little battle, the Union actually scored 2 points on the Confederates, and the Confederates scored 1 point on the Union. Now, that battle has far-reaching effects if you were to play this scenario out to the end, because with no cavalry, that means the Union can do no more reconnaissance. So as I look at the points, just adding them up to what we've scored, the Confederates have got 16 points and the Union only have 9. But you can see the time record up here. We're only up on September 2nd, and the game goes to 20 turns. So there's a whole other game here. And the Union still gets reinforcements from Washington. So I don't see where the game can go from here. Maybe I'll just do another Union turn to clean up the mess here. But clearly McClellan can start to take the offensive now. I'll just do a factor count just for my own curiosity to see what kind of offensive power each side has, and see what could happen. But I'll probably end the scenario here, but let me pause and take a look at the situation. Okay, just doing a factor count here, the Union can bring to bear well over 70 factors in attack, and I'm not even counting leadership here, where you add McClellan and Sumner, and the Confederates can only add in half that. So certainly Lee is still outnumbered, and he's lost the initiative. But I'll do another turn or so with the Union Army to see what kind of position they can get themselves in and see where the campaign might go. But I think historically the Confederate offensive for 62 would be over. They certainly would not be able to operate north of the Potomac now. Let's do a Union move, see what happens. Okay, that's the situation after I've moved the Union Army, and you can see that McClellan now has the situation pretty well in hand. He's now got enough leadership to keep most of his corps in command, and they will get better as he can actually spread some of these leaders out. Most of these units you see are real units. There are some dummies among there. McClellan does outnumber Lee well over 2 to 1. There's no way the Confederates are ever going to be able to get Washington and Alexandria now. They certainly will not be able to invade the north. And you can see that the Union is already making inroads into a counteroffensive down here into Virginia, snapping off Lee's only supply line to Gordonsville. So I don't see much point in fighting this one out. I think I've probably blown the Confederate strategy. If the Confederates are going to win this campaign, they have to strike quickly and move fast. And I think McClellan has the situation well in hand now, so there's no point in fighting it out. As for the Shenandoah Valley, there's no way the Confederates are going to be able to hold that and get their 25 points. In fact, I think the Union probably could take all those back. So definitely I would declare this to be a Union victory, perhaps even a decisive one if you were to add up all the points. So a summary of the game. Well, how does it age? That kind of thing. You know, the game was designed in 1973. And, you know, I still like it. I think it's a great game. I love the reconnaissance aspect of it. I think it's just a fine game. For those of you watching it for the first time, you might think, well, I don't know, it looks kind of dull to me. I don't know. I just like it. One thing I do like about it is the fact that the units are simple. They're clearly Union, they're blue. Those are clearly Confederate, gray. I find a lot of the games today, some of the Civil War ones, they've got these multitudes of colors of units. I can't even tell which side is which sometimes. I'm thinking here of the Brigade, the games by the gamers. They're nice looking, but I have a hard time with the units. I prefer the simplicity of this older system. I think there's lots to explore with this game still. I think the Gettysburg campaign is definitely the better scenario of the two. This is a very rough game for the Confederates to win, the Battle of Antietam, because the supply lines to Gordonsville are so easily interdicted, and there's no easy way of Lee invading the North. So that's my summation of the game Lee Moves North by SPI. Hope you enjoyed the play-by-play. I certainly enjoyed filming it. So that's it. Thank you for watching. Oh, I wanted to add an epilogue to the game at some point that didn't come up. You might have noticed that there isn't a lot of combat in the game, because it is mainly a maneuver and reconnaissance game, and that's one of the reasons why I liked it so much. You saw that after only a couple of combats, the game was almost decided, and maybe that's the way it should be. A lot of games I play of the Civil War, where you're fighting every single turn, just don't seem very realistic. While this one, you maneuver a lot to come to that big decisive battle and hope you drive the enemy from the field and achieve your strategic objectives. One last point, I played the game to death back in the 70s, actually wearing my copy out. The copy you're seeing here today is a newer one I bought. That's why the counters look so new. But the other one I had, I actually wore the counters out playing this thing. So that's the my final word on Lee Moves North. Thank you.